And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Lost Podcast of Titan. I am Jeremiah.
I am Michael.
We are a father and son, and we like to revisit the old TV series, TV shows, movies, books, whatever, sci-fi that brought us together. Usually when I was very young and he was younger, he would, I would come to him and I would say, "Father, give me,
Father, I'm bored out of my skull.
Father, I am bored out of my skull. Can I watch something cool? You are wise in the ways of the awesome. I need to know what is awesome. Show me, entertain me." And usually he would introduce me to things that upset Mama, basically. He is the one that assigned me Barbarella.
Did I really assign Barbarella to
You assigned me Barbarella, yes. That was one of my summer assignments, yes.
Oh, how old were you at the time?
I was not old enough.
Apparently not. God.
I was old. Okay, hold on. I was old enough to appreciate Barbarella, but not understand Barbarella. Okay, which might have been the point. I don't know.
What's the statute of limitations for exposing children to porn?
Barbarella was not porn.
Well,
Like-
you would think so. I would think so. But I bet I could find some judges who would, differ up to and including your late departed grandmother.
But
Who'd have slapped my face off my head.
but I mean, like it was. I don't even think there's even any nudity in Barbarella.
Despite everyone's best attempts to try.
Yes. But anyway, so for those
This is not the Barbarella discussion, by the way.
no, that'll be next week.
Oh, God.
So for those of you who have, this is season 2. This is the first episode of season 2, ladies and gentlemen. If you joined us and been with us in season 1, God bless you. Season 1, we went through the entirety of Star Trek, the original series. We would watch it. We would help try and sync it up, and hopefully would give our thoughts, commentaries while the episode was actually running. And in some instances, it was really good. Sometimes not so much. So. So we are going to try a format no one has actually thought of before. We're just going to review it. Hopefully we're just going to stand out enough to still be entertaining. So join us. We are going to be going into Star Trek, the animated series, which I'm really excited for. I haven't actually seen more than just a couple of episodes of Star Trek, the animated series. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the 100th episode of the Lost Podcast of Titan. So we decided to do something special, something that we've actually been looking forward to for about, maybe 50 episodes? Was that about?
I'd say so.
Like slightly
We've been
after 50
discussing
episodes.
we knew that the 100th episode was going to be, we wanted it to be special, so.
Yes. And this is special. So we are going to discuss Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. Dun 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 dun. Bun,
That would have been great music to open this episode with.
That would have been too obvious.
Well,
Actually, I probably should get a soundboard of some kind.
really.
This is probably something you shouldn't have brought up because now I'm going to get a soundboard. But anyway, so yes, I have now watched Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey recently. It's not like I haven't seen it before, but it has been a couple of years. I've watched it in glorious 4K. I mean, my initial thoughts, it really holds up visually, like a lot more than I would have expected.
It holds up very well visually.
I was looking back, like this movie was made in 1968 and holds up better than movies from the 80s.
Exactly.
Like holy hell. And it seems like I was also looking into some of the behind the scenes nonsense, and apparently Stanley Kubrick wanted to give a better sci-fi film, and like God bless him, but I guess we'll discuss sci-fi effects later. What did you think of your recent viewing of 2001? Did you see it in glorious 4K, or was it a standard, or what?
I'll have to go back and look. It was in that collection of Kubrick films that I have. Um,
It was
but it
probably
was
DVD then.
yeah, it was
So,
DVD.
so standard high def 1080. Okay.
But again, the quality was extremely good,
Mm-hmm.
and it really showed up quite well. Although something that occurred to me while we were watching it
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
that 2001 really needs to be seen on a big screen in the best format possible. And I don't say that about most other films. Most other films, just plop into your machine or watch it on your handheld device or something like that. But 2001 demand, it's like a fine wine.
Listen, I can understand that. I don't think I'll ever be able to see 2001 on the big screen. Uh, but I have seen movies that were supposed to and haven't been that impressed. Like, I give you permission, ladies and gentlemen, if you want, you can watch the new Dune movie on a smaller screen.
Yeah.
I shelled out
And I will agree with him.
I shelled out way too much money for laser IMAX. Ooh, laser IMAX. Ooh. And it's a very pretty film, but
Not worth laser IMAX.
okay. Let me tell you, like, the worst money I have ever spent on a movie. It was it was what was that fucking movie? It's the not Harry Potter films, the first one. Scary Beast and Where to Find Them, or something like that. Whatever. It was something my wife wanted to go see. So
Oh, that's right. Blame her.
no, well, I mean, I was kind of interested, but I wanted to do it special for her.
Okay.
So I sprung for like digital XD, which was like the nice screen we had in our area at the time. But I also sprang even more extra money for realistic. Welcome to our 2001 Space Odyssey film review, ladies and gentlemen. This for like these sensation seats. Like, they would actually move, and they were supposed to put you in the experience. They would turn kind of and twist, and it was supposed to be completely programmed and choreographed with the movie and bring you into a whole new level of cinematic enjoyment. And quite literally, all I got out of it was in the opening credits. It would sometimes go. It would feel like you were kind of on the world's most boring roller coaster. It's like just kind of slowly tilt forward, slowly tilt back, turn a little to the left. Ooh.
You had a better experience at Captain EO in Disneyland.
Yeah, and I barely remember that. Oh, so okay, so you were alive when it first came out,
Yes, I saw it in 1968 at the Americana Theater.
right?
It is to date the only movie that when I went and bought my ticket, I had the nice lady in the ticket booth had this chart behind her, and she had me pick out which seat I was going to sit in.
Really?
And actually had an usher escort me to that seat. Assigned seating. So even then, I knew, okay, this is going to be interesting.
Why did they give you assigned seating?
They wanted your preference.
Oh,
And I usually like to see a movie from as close to the center of the theater as possible.
yes, that is the best way.
Yes.
Usually my modus operandi these days, since there's that aisle usually cutting the theater seats in half, I'll try and get center front of that, like, midsection, because that seems to be the perfect amount of leg room, which is infinite.
Okay, but sometime earlier,
Yes.
I first heard about 2001: A Space Odyssey in an issue
Yes.
of McCall's magazine. I don't know if McCall's is still being put out anymore.
Probably not. No.
No, the cover had a woman in a sort of gold space suit with a transparent helmet, and they had, a message they were going to be talking about 2001, which is, the first I'd heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened up and I saw they ran a few stills
Right.
from the film. And even looking at those stills, I could tell this was going to be a cut above the usual
Sci-fi schlock.
Sci-fi schlock. In fact, to give you an example, if you ever get a chance, it's on YouTube. There's another 1968 science fiction film called Mission Mars.
Oh no! Wait, is that the
And
one that they made fun of in Mystery Science Theater 2000?
I don't think it should be, but I don't recall. But it was typical of what the sort of science fiction films that I was experiencing back in the 60s. But 2001 looked like it was going to be different. And I went and saw it at the Americana in Austin, Texas. And oh my God, it was different.
Mm-hmm. So, did you actually like it when you first saw it?
Yes.
Okay.
I liked it. I did not understand it, all of it, of course. But then, Arthur C. Clarke said that if you understood the film, then Stanley and I had made a mistake. I was also, more than liking the film, I was overwhelmed by the film.
Even without LSD.
Which I didn't take. And if anyone took LSD while I was watching it in the theater, it was a surprise to me.
Well, this is Austin, Texas, around the time you were there, so Janice Joplin was nearby, and all the acid heads were with her, so you were safe.
All right.
So,
welcome to our 2001 Space Odyssey.
With soundtrack provided by Janice Joplin. Hey! But anyway, I kind of had the same experience. Like, I don't remember the first time I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey. I can almost just imagine me coming up to you, though, when I was young and asking for an awesome science fiction film to watch. And you would, you made a recommendation, or you put me down in front of it or whatever. But I did not understand a single damn thing until I was well into probably my teens of what the fuck was going on.
It was not your average, popcorn seller kiddie feature.
Right. And also, it just wasn't that. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here. The movie itself is actually kind of. It wasn't
interesting, but it's exciting.
Dull. Right. It was interesting, but it's dull. Like, you have the birth of man, and then the discovery of TMA-1, then a Jupiter mission, and then the Stargate. And really, there's only one point of tension that happens in that whole film. Everything else is just, here's something that happens, and we're just going to move on from that. Here's something that happens, and we're going to move on from that.
A lot of critics laid the same charge upon the film. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was your first experience with Stanley Kubrick, who is a director I believe you've come to respect since then.
Oh, yeah. I think.
But it took people a while to realize that this was one of the points that Kubrick was trying to make. He wasn't going for an action-packed adventure. He was experimenting with the entire medium of film as a storytelling device, as a way of exploring, not your average type of storytelling, not drama or action, but just events.
Right.
And so I saw a few days ago, I was going through some reviews and such, and I caught a 30-minute segment from Woody Allen on YouTube. He was talking about 2001.
For 30 minutes? God damn.
No, 30 seconds, 45.
Oh, okay.
And he said that when he first saw the film, he didn't like it. It wasn't until his third viewing, though, that he finally felt he realized what Kubrick was doing. And he now, like a lot of other people, consider it, Kubrick's masterwork. 2001: A Space Odyssey is not a film you're going to get, quote unquote, on your first viewing. You take it in, and
one little piece at a time, yeah.
Right, and then later on, after subsequent viewings, you start to realize just what Kubrick was up to. I had the same thing happen to me with Barry Lyndon. The first time I saw Barry Lyndon, I felt, I could go out and watch grass grow and it'd be more exciting. But in later viewings with Barry Lyndon, I realized, this was brilliant.
or any of your typical Russian directors who decide to linger on a shot of grass for 10 minutes.
All right. Okay. Hold on to the controls there, kid. No, but people talked about the banality of the characters, the total, the dialogue, the non-inspiring dialogue. But once again, that was the point. Kubrick wanted to show that the future environment, the colonization of space, people would kind of become just pasteurized, just blended. The only human character in 2001: A Space Odyssey is the HAL 9000 computer.
Okay, I was actually going to bring that up because here's a small confession about how stupid I was as a child. Is that I had the greatest of difficulties actually distinguishing all the standard issue 30 to 40-year-old white guys apart. And granted, there's only like 3 of them on screen in the entire movie. But I always got really confused, and I still was. Like, I just realized something I only realized like a few years ago is that like Dr. Floyd was a completely different character and wasn't on the ship.
Yeah. Same body types, same tone of voices, same clothes. The only person who stands out in regards to clothing from that scene where they're having the conference meeting on the moon
is the girl, right?
Well, there is a girl there, surprisingly enough. But there's this other guy. He was just bouncing around taking pictures of everybody, and he is wearing one of the worst suits I have ever seen in a motion picture. This checkered monstrosity, and I keep wanting to say, your wife lets you go out dressed like that? I was grateful when he left. And I'll get back to that conference room. But you caught, I think, one of the things that Kubrick, and in his own way Clark, wanted in the story was we had reached, humanity was reaching a sort of dangerous level of sameness. And it was probably about time for the next step in evolution. Not evolution as brought about naturally, but evolution as brought about by the same creatures who had initially planted the monolith on Earth hundreds of thousands of years ago. And if this is all confusing to any of you, this is where you might want to pause this tape or a podcast and go actually watch the movie and then come back.
Well, I mean, let's start with a kind of a synopsis of the movie. So it starts out Dawn of Man with 2 tribes of apes watering hole, and basically one tribe comes in and basically pushes the other tribe off, and we spend about like 10 or so minutes just sort of following this broken tribe as they're just suffering through all the trials and travails that comes along with being prehistoric man on the verge of death, because you're basically at the mercy of everything.
Yes.
Now, I had a thought when I saw this yesterday. The reason why the broken tribe got the monolith and not the more aggressive tribe was that the broken tribe had the pathway of, they had the spark of need. Like, they were starving, dying of thirst, they were being picked off by predators. The larger and more aggressive tribe basically, ran them off. Like, and then the monolith comes down and basically sparks human imagination. But they had the need that needed to be immediately fulfilled. The larger tribe obviously had a food source, had water, maybe.
Well, they were much more there was only that one watering hole, is the impression that I keep getting.
Yeah.
And the more aggressive tribe was able to force the weaker tribe away.
Because they were the larger tribe, yeah.
It could have just very well had been the aggressor tribe where the aliens had planted the monolith. Either way, this
no, I don't think they would have, because the aggressor tribe was large enough and complacent, like they didn't need it as much as the Broken Tribe. Like the
So
Broken
you
Tribe
think
was willing to go out. They were already out of the comfort zone.
so you think that if left alone with no alien intervention, the more aggressive tribe would have survived and flourished?
I don't think it would have survived. I think that was part of the point. But if the aggressive tribe got the monolith, um, they wouldn't see the need to do anything. Like
Okay, I'm
like
going to disagree with you on this point
oh fine, okay, that's fine.
because the point of the monolith was to just give that little nudge to the primitive brain to pick up on the idea of tools. But the basic theme of 2001: A Space Odyssey, as I've seen it, was the history of tool using in human society. You start out with bones, you end up with spacecraft and computers, and eventually you get the Star Child, which is the perfect integration of humans and tool.
Yeah, that's just,
The
yeah.
the human becomes the tool and vice versa.
Although, did you notice? So after the Broken Tribe basically gets some, bone hammers and just smashes the hell out of the more aggressive tribe, they're they're basically just hanging out, enjoying the fruits of their labor and such like that. There is one brief shot, like maybe a second, where it actually shows chimpanzees looking at the bones, but they're confused. Like they understand the bones are important, but they don't quite grasp how or why.
They weren't connecting, they still had to connect the
They
dots.
still hadn't connected the dots. Yeah, and yes, I understand that chimps do use tools. But that was like the point I think Kubrick was trying to make, is that we had made the connection, but our lesser cousins hadn't.
Yeah.
And so the next scene is basically complete wankery almost. It's about 15 minutes of the Blue Danube as Dr. Floyd goes to the space station. Like, holy fuck. So basically, Stanley Kubrick. No, no, it's perfectly okay because Stanley Kubrick figured out a way to do all these shots. He's like, you motherfuckers have no idea how to do any kind of special effect. I'm going to do special effects, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And you're going to have to suffer through my masturbation here as I show off all these cool visual effects. And you're going to wonder how the hell I did it. And hopefully you'll get off your asses and do something new.
So
There's
I'm gonna
Georgie
raise
Boy over there.
I'm gonna raise the bar and you people can just suck it.
Yeah, because there was like that one shot where Professor Floyd's pen was floating in the air.
Yes.
And there's that long shot of the stewardess going down the corridor of Pan Am of the space shuttle, and then she just reaches out, grabs the floating pen, and puts it in his pocket. And I couldn't see how it was done.
Well, the pen was on a floating transparent disc. I think it was, just stuck on there well enough to allow her to reach out and take it off the disc and move it to Floyd's pocket.
Ah, okay.
But what it was even more impressive to me, sort of a related scene, later on when Floyd's going to the moon, that scene where the flight attendant is picking up meals for the flight crew,
Yeah.
and she starts walking up the wall of that kitchen.
Yeah, I can see how...
You could hear a pin drop in the theater. Everyone's going, the hell?
Yes, he had that shot several times throughout the entire movie, and he was very proud of it. And considering the cost of that set, I can imagine the producers going, you will fucking use this shot every single goddamn time it can come up. We are going to milk it. We are going to milk it until it screams. Because it was almost $1 million just to build the set.
Yes, $12
That was,
million
and that was back in
budget
1968 money.
Yeah, just let me, had me making interesting. 2001: A Space Odyssey had a budget for $12 million. And a few years later, one of the special effects people who worked on 2001, Douglas Trumbull, makes his own science fiction film, Silent Running, which I thought had brilliant special effects. And he was only able to spend $1,350,000.
Huh. That would explain a lot for Silent Running. Anyway.
Ouch! But no, when you mentioned Pan Am briefly, it reminded me of a point I was going to bring up. Some of the audience might not realize it, but someone pointed out that they did a lot of product placement in that film.
Yes.
But most of the companies that they mentioned were no longer in existence by 2001.
I can name one that is
Hilton,
which fucking like there's a fucking Hilton hotel on the goddamn space station, and also like the people just boringly doing their jobs on the space station. Like there was
routine job.
A front desk clerk at the space station.
And it doesn't occur to him, I'm on a space station. Wow. But Pan Am was gone. Bell Telephone was gone. Howard Johnson's was gone.
Also, I was amused that the charge for long distance was $1.70, and that was supposed to be a sticker shock. Like, oh my God, it's so expensive. I'm like, wow, $1.70. Okay.
Say, give it a bit, Stanley.
Also, okay, did you pick up on the amount of birthdays in this film?
Yes, there were a lot of people celebrating birthdays. There's a list. If anyone is interested, they need to pick up a book by Jerome Agel called The Making of Kubrick's 2001. And one of the items in that book is a list of all the birthdays being celebrated.
Yeah, it was actually kind of weird. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
But later on when Frank Poole is receiving his birthday message from his parents.
Yeah.
I was watching that transmission and I'm thinking, well, now I know why Frank Poole was so desperate to get out into space.
And he wasn't getting paid for it. Did you catch that bit?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. So, okay,
But, Kubrick, this again, Kubrick was pushing to show space travel as routine by the time the 21st century begins. Ho-hum, I'm going to the space station. Ho-hum, I'm traveling to the moon.
That was like the general standard thought, right? Like you yourself who was looking at space had no reason to believe that everything would just stop.
Yeah, we were expecting this. If you look at a list of the Apollo missions that were scheduled for after Apollo 11, there was supposed to be many more missions, and each one people were going to be staying on the moon longer and longer and longer. So naturally, we were expecting giant space stations in orbit by the 21st century with hotels and stuff. We were expecting a giant city on the moon that people would be living in. That we took it for granted.
Oh, Lord.
And yes, it drove a lot of people, including me, crazy.
The moon is up there. It's got stuff. But, okay, so Floyd goes to the space station. There's obviously something going on. He has colleagues who are like, what the fuck is going on in Claudia Station? We have rumors of a pandemic.
Yes.
They denied a shuttle emergency landing, and I'm like, da-da-da-da-da-da. And Dr. Floyd does the worst, absolute worst job of being subtle.
Yeah, like, nonchalant.
I don't know exactly.
You mean there's something going on the moon? Is that why I had this space shuttle all to myself coming here?
Well, I don't know what's going on. I guess I'll have to look into that. I'll let you know. Hey, send your husband. Tell him I say hi.
And we'll bring our little girl by if we go to the. You can find out online, but they were the Russians were speaking Russian before and after Floyd has his little visit. Mm-hmm. And someone went to the trouble of translating the Russian, and just to summarize it, the Russians knew something was up from Floyd's reaction.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, but
probably.
I thought they denied a Russian rocket bus to land at Clavius base? Was that going to spill the beans? Was everyone on the base?
For one thing, that Russian. Come on now, come on. The Russians weren't really needing to emergency land. They just wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah, okay, I grant them that, but it didn't help. The American reaction certainly didn't help.
Well, of course not.
And which leads me to one of my big complaints about not the way the film was made, but the characterization as such. They have that conference. Floyd comes up and delivers his speech and stuff.
And
to the
says
people.
nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, I know. And a few moments later, the directors and Floyd are flying to the TMA-1 monolith. And someone says, that was a great speech you gave, Floyd. Really beefed up morale. And I'm thinking, are you kidding? That was the dullest speech I've ever heard in my entire life.
Also, these are people in the room. They know what's going on. They're there. They're the ones who called you in. You don't have to be subtle anymore.
And this whole crock about maintaining secrecy.
Well, yes, the Russians are there. You got to maintain secrecy. What are you doing?
What are the Russians going to find out? It's a large block of alien metal. There's no moving parts. There's nothing written on it.
They know of.
But, the whole security just... Oh.
You just don't appreciate how sneaky and conniving the Russians can be. Hello, Russian
I
listeners.
I do. Yeah. Hi. Well, welcome to the new version of the Lost Podcast of Titan.
Da.
But da. But no. Seriously? What was the big security problem? The Russians couldn't do a damn thing. Hiding it from the Russians,
The Russians could enact some sort of treaty. I was under the impression, even though it wasn't explicitly stated, that since the moon was international territory, and there's all this cooperation going on in space, that anything found on the moon would be declared the property of Earth. So Russia and other countries could basically say, hey, stop hiding that. We want to take a look at it too. And that's what the Americans were trying to avoid.
Well, it was all boiling down to, the Americans thinking they could gain some sort of incredible scientific or more to the point, military advantage from the monolith, which we all know was not going to happen.
Well, we know, but they don't.
Well, it's a large block of metal stuck in the ground.
That we know. They don't.
And couldn't the Russians tell that there was some kind of activity from the American base going on in the crater Tycho?
Probably.
Then why didn't they go to Tycho directly is something I've often wondered.
Because of the pandemic.
Oh.
You know that the moment someone says there are pandemics and there are rules, that everyone follows those rules because we can't, be selfish during a pandemic. That's just not how pandemics work.
Yes, welcome to our obligatory social commentary for this podcast.
Also, okay, I want to point out something on the fucking moon here before we jump off. So Bowman, Dr. Floyd. I'm sorry, Dr. Floyd. It's standard issue white guy. Dr. Floyd and standard issue white men.
That was their rank.
Seriously, all go off to TMA-1, Tycho Magnetic Anomaly 1. They've been digging around it. They thought maybe it was the top of a structure, etc., etc. They go there, and it's picture time. They're all wearing the same spacesuits, which makes it just even more difficult. Also, I'm amused that they all pose as if they have just found this. It is built. They have lights all around it. They have a small containment structure around it, and they're like, "Oh, hey, look at what we found! Everyone pose! Aren't we the brave scientists and explorers?"
Those scenes were filmed first, by the way. Those were the first scenes Kubrick filmed for the movie.
Oh, okay. It actually took him 5 years to make the movie, I think. But anyway,
yeah. Much to MGM's consternation.
But what confused me was what was the inciting incident that caused it to send the radio signal?
Sunlight was hitting it. It was a
Right.
buried. It was a solar powered structure. It had been
Exactly.
buried. They dug it up, and as you see in the last few moments before we switch location, the sunlight is directly pouring onto the monolith.
Exactly. Now, do you see a problem with this?
Go ahead and tell me what you see, and I'll see if I can come up with an answer.
What did they find first? What did they dig up first?
The monolith.
Right. What did they then do after that?
They
They dug around it because they thought it was a top of a structure,
right. So
which means the monolith had been uncovered first and was uncovered for a much greater period of time than the people who just came up. Like, this is the first fucking moon sunrise on the moon?
do you know how long day and night cycles are on the moon?
No, not particularly.
Okay, well, they don't.
Do
It's
you?
not to the last second, but it's not a 24-hour cycle like we have here on Earth.
Hold on. Day cycle. I gotta look this up now. Day cycle of the moon. Da, da, da. It is. Wait. God damn it. I'll just actually use the goddamn keyboard instead of the phone. Moon rotation period.
Length of lunar day,
Oh, there we go. That's probably it.
and I'll have that answer in just a moment. Well, it says here 24 hours and 50 minutes, but
Yep. Whoops. Oh, so sorry. Wait, hold on. To break a day on the moon lasts as long as 29 and a half Earth days.
the
Okay.
lunar day lasts for 29 days, 12 hours, and 44 minutes.
Okay, so that might have been it. All right.
Yeah.
I think that fits because they were talking about how it's been down for 10 days was their thing. So if we say 10 days when they're on the space station and then a couple of days travel to the moon and then all that stuff. Okay, so all right, that fits.
Well, even though they managed to get Floyd up there in record time, they must have just coming up and shaking Floyd, telling him to wake up and get out of bed. You got to go to the moon. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Well, I'm tired. My day off.
I got my daughter's birthday is tomorrow.
That's right. I got to get her a bush baby.
She's the best actress in this whole movie. Like, holy shit.
Well, she's Kubrick's daughter, so.
Really?
Yeah, that was little Vivian Kubrick.
Oh, okay. So that's why she didn't take direction well. Got it. But,
nice smile on her, though.
Yeah. Although
And
I
they
still
act-
wonder what the fuck a bush baby is.
It's a small mammal you've found in Africa and stuff like that. And they actually did film footage showing a bush baby being purchased at Macy's, but it didn't end up in the final film.
On the space station?
No, this was Floyd apparently arranged for someone to go to Macy's on Earth and get
Oh, okay.
the little girl a bush baby.
Oh, God, that sounds so bad, though. Oh, my God.
What do you mean, Seth? You perv?
No, not that. Never mind. So there's a signal. It's going to Jupiter, and then it's a hard cut 18 months into the Jupiter mission, where we now have Dr. Bowman and Poole, I think?
Poole.
Yes,
Yeah.
standard issue white men.
Well, yeah, no, but having said that, I mean, did you really want to go through the entire mission from the beginning?
No, I did not. The movie was long enough as it was. They could have they could have saved some time cutting the Blue Danube and the Stargate. Okay.
Listen, it's 2001, among other things, 2001: A Space Odyssey did wonders for sales of
LSD.
Strauss and music.
Yes, I'm sure Strauss really appreciated it. But okay, yeah. So we're now, and also I have to say I did not appreciate really the Discovery model when I was young.
What was the problem?
Because it was so boringly like
Slow?
No, well, yes, that's slow, but it was so boringly shaped. There was nothing interesting on it. There were no really cool engines or weapons or anything. It was literally just here's the Discovery, here's the habitation pod, here's a line of cargo pods, and here's the engines, basically, which is
Well,
standard issue NASA, standard issue space. Like this is probably how it's going to look when we eventually start doing this shit. So I
well,
didn't really appreciate that until I got older.
I was going to say, you younger people are hard to please. I thought I was rather impressed by the look of Discovery.
Well, yeah, but look at what you had at the time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. But so yeah, so we have two standard issue White Men and Hal. Um, we have the BBC for some reason.
We
Um,
have Stanley Kubrick predicting the pad,
predicting the pad. What pad?
the think pad, or
The ThinkPad? What?
that flat device that they were watching the show on.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I thought it was just a television screen. My bad.
They were carrying it around with them all the time. But yeah, apparently they wanted to see that interview on the BBC.
Mm. And they have the most unappetizing food ever created in
I know that
history.
really. I understand the need for standardizing food for something like that, but it didn't look.
Appetizing.
I'd have to be pretty hungry.
Oh, and sometimes it was okay. So were they in zero G all the time there?
Most of Discovery was zero G, except for in the centrifuge, the area where they ate their meals and talked to Hal.
Yeah.
For the
Okay.
most part, it was a large spinning. I have diagrams around here which show you where in the command sphere the centrifuge was, but it rotated along the center axis of the ship,
Mm-hmm.
providing a semblance of Earth-type gravity, which prevent their bones from atrophying and stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, the command deck was in weightless environment. Obviously, the HAL brain room was in weightless environment, and so was the shuttle bay. They were walking in the shuttle bay. They were walking on those black, convenient Velcro section,
Yeah.
and but that's how that got split up.
And see, here's the problem. Here's where the movie falls apart for me.
Oh dear.
Well, I mean, like I say that dramatically, but
Oh
so spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to Jupiter to check out the monolith that's there,
yeah.
and but it's a top secret mission, and no one
Oh
knows about it. Not the
well,
crew
the three guys who were in suspended animation.
did
Well,
not
no.
know about it.
Okay, that's right. They had that film. But go ahead.
They had a
Continue.
film. Okay, so no one on this crew is aware of the mission. Not even really Hal. Like the information was given to Hal, but he didn't really have access to it. Is what my understanding was. Like the whole concept wasn't supposed to happen until, or the whole revelation was supposed to happen until they reached Jupiter, which makes zero sense.
Right.
Zero.
What? Why bother to hide it from the crew?
Like let's just it's an 18-month journey. Let's say that it takes them 2 years to get to Jupiter, to the Tycho magnetic anomaly. Like you're just going to wake these motherfuckers up and be like, "Hey guys, so surprise, aliens are real. Surprise, they buried something on the moon, and surprise, there's something there in Jupiter orbit that we want you to take a look at. We don't know what it is. Good luck, have fun."
Drop us a letter.
That is their plan. This is the stupidest plan ever conceived. Like everything else makes sense in this movie up until this point where they're like, "Well, we have to be secret. Let's load these people on in hibernation right away and not even tell them what they're doing."
And in case some people in the audience might be confused, yes, there were three members of the crew who were loaded onto the ship in hibernation. But as later on, when Bowman
Is
sort of
lobotomizing Hal, basically.
and activates this film from Floyd on the White Man channel, Floyd reveals that not even the members of the survey crew,
Yeah.
although I don't think they were entirely in the dark, else why go to the trouble I mean, I know the official explanation as to why they went to the trouble of putting Kaminsky, Whitehead, and Hunter in suspended animation before the mission started. But certainly and Hal, even Hal points out that those three guys had gone off for some, quote, special training
for 3
unquote.
months. Yeah.
So I feel they were told something.
But they had to, like, why bother?
I know. Was there a Russian were they worried about stowaways on board Discovery?
Professor Smith or Dr. Smith? Oh no.
Suddenly appears. Where's Will
Yeah,
Robinson?
and also, you could have told Hal and be like, hey Hal, just don't mention it. Please.
Instead, we got this whole
Yeah.
that Clark had to practically write an entire extra novel in order to explain. And even the explanation in 2010, I didn't really find all that satisfying.
No, I didn't either. And there are other, like, I kind of like 2010 though.
Yeah, there are parts of it I do like, and the people are a lot. The crew on the ships in the movie are a lot less blended. You can actually tell the difference between.
Yes, they are no longer standard issue, which is it's also really weird. Like, they went back. We'll have to discuss it later, I guess. But it feels like they went backwards. Like, you know what I mean? Space travel became less standard.
Yeah, the Leonov looks less advanced than the Discovery.
Yeah, but so okay, where we're at? Oh yeah, so they're now on the ship, and they go into the BBC interview, etc., like that, and like there's the mention of the secrecy, all such, and how basically
I think I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
And Hal's like, hey, aren't things a little weird? Huh? Are you a little worried? And Bowman tries no. Dr. Yeah, it is Bowman. God damn, standard issue. Holy shit. Fuck my life. Holy shit.
Wear t-shirts with your names on them, guys.
The sad thing is, I think they did. Also, wait, before we go on any further, Kapinski, one of the guys in the coffin tubes.
Yes.
Best acting job ever. He was the only one I could find in IMDb who actually had a credited role. And literally, I think it was the only reason was because he was the only one that had a close-up. He comes up, oh, I'm going to work with Kubrick on his latest 2001. He's been working on this film for 3 years. Oh my God, this will launch my career.
My career's made. I'll get a rep and all that
wow.
stuff.
I'm going to be in a Kubrick. Okay. Oh, yes, Mr. Kubrick, sir. What do you want me to do? Aww.
Lay in his coffin and...
Aww. Yeah. But there's this big deal about how the HAL 9000 is perfect, doesn't make any mistakes, etc., etc. And then, for whatever reason, when there's doubt, it suddenly goes crazy. Like... It senses a malfunction on a communication unit. They go and replace it, and it doesn't show any kind of error or malfunction. And how
there's this pause while Bowman and Poole give each other this look.
Right. Now, the thing is, okay, I'm an IT professional. I sometimes shudder to say this, but I am an IT professional. And when Hal says... oh yeah, this thing has happened before, and it has always been traced back to human error. And I'm like, yes it does. Like there are things that happen mechanically where things break down and stuff like that, but 9 times out of 10, when something suddenly stops working, it's because you fucked around with it. So that explanation made perfect sense, but this one tiny little mistake. Like, let's assume that they're correct and Hal's just wrong about this. They decide, okay, let's have a private discussion in the most completely unbelievable,
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Poole, I'm having trouble with my D channel.
I mean, we were complaining about Floyd being unsubtle on the space station with the Russians. They sat through that whole thing with Mission Control, where Mission Control says, our 9,000 units here on Earth are not reporting the same thing that your 9,000 units reporting. And Hal, the conversation ends, and Hal is the first one to speak. You guys aren't having any problems with this, are you? And they say, "Oh no, Hal, no problems at all. Everything's fine."
Like,
and
literally, they should have just leaned in and go, "We're going to discuss lobotomizing you. Hold on a minute." And
but they go, "Oh, Dave, I've been having trouble with the D circuit in the third pod. Could you come check it out with me?" I thought, can we not just put a big blinking neon sign above these guys?
It gets worse. It gets worse. So what they do is they go to the pod room, okay, and specifically, "Hey, Hal, can you please rotate pod whatever it was?"
Pod 3.
And Hal says, yeah, sure, I'll do that. "Hey, pal, can you please open the door?" "Yeah, sure, no problem." Opens the door. They then get into the pod. And then what do?
They rotate the pod back.
No. They tell Hal. "Hey, Hal, rotate the pod again." Why? They have to get back out.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that blew my mind as well.
I'm like, what are you doing?
Do you have to have the pod facing the exit doors in order to perform checks and repairs and such?
Oh, no, I don't think you do. But so this is the big the turning point is when Hal basically looks through the window and reads lips.
Which was a very creepy scene, by the way.
Yeah, it was. But I also kind of wonder what else they were discussing, because it sounded like they had their entire conversation was done, and then they go to Hal looking through the window, and they're still talking about, like, do you think we should fiddle around maybe with the D-circuit? Like, they weren't even playing around with anything inside the pod. They were just talking to each other in full view. Like, what if I told you, "Hey, father of mine, I'm really loving this conversation. Damn, I need to go and fix this grandfather clock here in this room. Hey, friend of mine, can you please come with me and help me fix this grandfather clock?" And then we go, and there's a giant window as a wall where you can see us perfectly well as we just hang out near the clock. I don't have any tools. I'm not opening the clock. I'm not doing anything to the clock. We're just having a conversation very clearly about you.
I don't want to go off the subject too much, but someday ask me about how I saw your mother in her wedding dress before the wedding. And it's sort of the same story. But yeah, what happened to the intelligence of human being? These guys they were astronauts on a space probe mission to Jupiter. These intellectually, they're supposed to be on the top of their game, and they pull a bonehead stunt. They went to all these lengths to tell people like the BBC and stuff like that, how sophisticated Hal is. But I don't think in their heart of hearts, they believed it.
And also, I don't see this as the reason to basically shut Hal down. I mean, let's assume he made a mistake. Okay. And he's running the ship just fine.
Explore the underlying reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Or you know what? Let it fail. Why do you have to have the secret conversation? Like, do what Hal wants. Have the secret conversation, or don't have the secret conversation because the plan made sense, or it could have been like, you know what, Hal, EVAs are a little bit risky. We have the fresh unit in. You don't see any problem with that. We'll keep this on ship. We will do this later when we're closer to Earth. For now, let's keep going.
They were listening to Mission Control explain how the 9,000 units on Earth were not experiencing the same, were getting different results than Hal. I could have pointed out that, 9,000 units on Earth are good. Yeah. They lack the actual space experience that our HAL unit That, I mean, it may not be much of a difference, but it has to mean for something.
Yeah, and on top of that, I would have had no problem, and I think Hal would have had no problems. Like, hey Hal, this is a little weird, you admit, and you pointed out this could be human error, probably is human error. Tell you what, just every now and again, reach back out to Earth, say what this is what you're doing, make sure the Hal's on the Earth are in agreement with you, and we'll just do this for a little bit until as we continue the mission. And I don't think Hal would have had a problem. Hal might have given a little bit of a snark because
Or
clearly this is human error, and it probably was because actually it turns out it was human error. But
they automatically jumped onto the idea that it was Hal's fault.
yeah, and then they like immediately let's lobotomize him. Rah.
I mean, how long do you think a small mistake they lobotomized you?
Oh no. Oh no.
But couldn't couldn't they have reasoned that maybe Hal experienced something like garbage in, garbage out,
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah, like yeah, it happens.
and then somehow come across, or use that as an excuse to go back and build upon Hal's earlier observation of the other three guys being brought onto the mission already in suspended animation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised Bowman didn't jump all over that.
Yeah. But
I would, if I was mission commander,
yeah.
and they suddenly changed. I mean, I believe he was expecting all of the mission people to come on board Discovery conscious at the same time, and then in order to save on life support and consumption and stuff like that, Kaminsky, Hunter, and Whitehead would be put into suspended animation
Right, yeah.
after the mission, after the ship gets on the way. But if they're going to do this, make this sudden change, because apparently they didn't.
They
Just come up
commandeered Jupiter mission, yeah.
Yeah. As mission commander, I would have been suspicious and would have wanted an explanation.
But so this basically convinces Hal, fuck everybody. And it's Poole's turn to go on the EVA. And I think if I understand what Hal did, he took over the pod and basically crashed into Poole to send him barreling away.
Everybody into the pool.
Pretty much. And then Bowman goes to rescue him and forgets his helmet.
That was really unprofessional. I mean, I know Bowman was in a state of panic and stuff like that. But
the thing was,
he passed by 4 helmets on his way to the space pod.
Also, I want to point out, he never seems panicked. Ever. Like, we say he was panicked. It didn't seem like he was ever panicked.
And I would think that, or it's just me, but I would think that a spare space helmet would be standard equipment on board a space pod.
Or, yeah. And so Hal lets him out of the ship, and Bowman goes to get Poole with the pod, and while he's gone, Hal basically just kills all the people in cryostasis, which is
yeah, that was ugh.
Which was.
But I wanted to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Did you did you notice before Hal takes over the pod that there was actually a Hal eye on the pod? I have to confess that when I first saw the film, I never noticed the red eye on the pod until the scene when Hal turns the pod and goes advancing on Poole.
No, I never saw that. No.
And I thought, crap.
Well, wait. If Hal can take over the pods, why bother even
sending someone out on EVA?
Yeah. Or for that matter, why did Hal even allow Bowman to control the pod?
Yeah, if what Hal wanted to do was kill the members of the crew, he could have let Bowman leave Discovery and then just blow the hatch, knowing that Bowman didn't have a helmet, and that would have solved that little problem. Or have you ever read Arthur C. Clarke's original novel?
Yeah, I've read 2001 all the way up to 3001.
Okay,
which
so
I
you
feel
know
bad about.
that. So you know that in the novel, the business with the space pod didn't happen. It was just a matter of Hal opening the airlocks and letting all the air out, and Bowman had to fight to get his way to a emergency airlock.
Yeah. Yeah, hello?
Hello.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. Was there a need, I guess, to insert drama into
I,
this
I,
portion?
I'm guessing, like, there had to be a note from the producer, like, come on, Stanley, baby. We got to have something.
I mean, we don't have women on the ship with great legs. How about like that American series?
Oh. But,
Uh,
so yeah,
if
so Bowman grabs Poole, comes back to the ship, and basically this is the famous scene: open the pod bay doors, Hal, and Hal refuses.
and
So
Bowman goes, pretty
Bowman
please.
goes to the emergency airlock, opens it up, and just opens the door to his blasted open the door to his pod, and immediately just sucks vacuum for about 10 seconds, which was actually part of those horrific parts of the film, which sort of held up even now. Like there was that tension of I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I
Well,
don't want to
obviously,
do this.
yeah. Just a side note: Arthur C.
Yeah.
Clarke. That was based on a short story that Arthur C. Clarke wrote.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he also actually researched what was known then about how much vacuum a person could experience without lingering side effects.
Mm.
But still,
But now that Bowman's back on the ship, he lobotomizes Hal, and in the process of lobotomizing Hal, we get the revelation, the secret video. Behold, this is a secret mission. We found something in Jupiter. No one knows about it, not even your computer, and you're going to go explore it. Have fun.
and you're not, and since you're lobotomized the computer, you're going to have to control every aspect of the spaceship all by yourself.
And the thing is, it's like, okay, this is another part that confused me, is that they don't have any communications because it was in the middle of the swap when Hal attacked. So they lost both of those AE whatever units.
Are you certain? Because they had replaced the AE-35 unit, and what Poole's going to do, he was going to go and replace the quote,
Right.
faulty unit unquote.
What
But he never got that far.
I thought he did.
No, we saw Bowman remove the faulty unit, but we never saw Poole replace the faulty unit.
Well, that was my understanding, because why the fuck would Bowman just continue on the mission when that was it?
Well, what was he going to do?
Well, okay,
You can't just pull on the brakes and then do a bootleg turn and fly back to Earth.
No, but you could go in orbit and put yourself in hibernation.
God, I'd hate to trust the hibernation units. After.
I know, but anyway, so, but Bowman's idea is I am going to just take this pod and I'm going to crash into the monolith. Like that's what he does.
Or at least gets very close to it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, what was he going? He's going to take a close look at it. Like, what was his plan? What was he going to do?
Well, they had brought him all the way out to Jupiter to do this. If he was going to die, and I suspect he felt that there was a pretty good chance that he wasn't going to make it back to Earth, he would have been curious. I would have been curious enough to try and figure out what the hell is all this for.
Mm.
And then, of course, we
have the 20-minute wankery scene.
This is where the people on LSD were flipping out. Someone supposedly in a theater was, when this was initially released, started screaming, "It's God, it's God," which amused Clark to no end, since he was an atheist, and also Kubrick, since he was a Jew.
But yeah, it was just it must have been impressive. Like, how did you feel about that scene when you first saw it?
I was blown away. I had never seen anything like that. This was the first real big use of what has since become known as slit scan photography.
Mm-hmm.
And
two infinite perspectives, yeah.
Yeah, and no one had seen that up until now, and especially seeing it on the big screen at the Americana. It's you just felt yourself going back into your seat, hanging on for dear life.
And this just keep going. This kept going on and fucking on.
Too long for you?
It was boring. Yes.
That's when Stanley, went out for lunch and he had his friend, a Russian director, come in and.
Duh. It's cold in Russia. You must keep the audience warm. They'll give them another 15 minutes.
Well, after all that, and
Yes.
then we end up in the hotel room. That's when I think the audience really got the zap put on their heads. It was like, what the fuck is going on here now?
Yeah.
I sure as hell didn't know.
I keep going back and forth between, what precisely is going on, but right now my imagination is that he lives there in that room for the 40 to 60 years he has left in his life, until he is ready to die and then ascend into the Star Child.
I don't think it was actually that long. I think time was telescope, because you notice how everything keeps overlapping. He's still in the pod, and he sees himself standing outside the pod. Then we see him outside the pod, and there's no pod. Then he goes and explores the room, and he hears these sounds, and he looks back, and there's this old man sitting at the table eating a meal. And then we see the old man eating the meal. He hears something. He goes into the bathroom. There's no one there.
No, but he's not surprised about any of it, is what I mean. It's like when the feeling I got when he was the old man who got up to, because he heard someone behind him, it was because there was that vague memory that he had. Oh yeah, this was that point where I had seen myself eating the meal. Like, I think everything was happening simultaneously, but for him,
for him, it was from his perspective.
From his perspective, it was however many years he was in that room.
But, all I know is that for weeks after I had seen the film,
Mm-hmm.
I suddenly became the focus of attention with members of my family who, surprisingly enough, had also gone and seen the film, because I didn't think that 2001: A Space Odyssey was their cup of tea. And they would take me aside, Michael, what the heck just went on at the end of the movie? And by that time, fortunately, I had read Clark's book, so I was able to provide
some sort of answer, yeah.
Yeah, some sort of answer, not necessarily a satisfying one, because it was rather, in Clark's novel, he didn't really nail everything down.
No, he didn't. I remember there were some aspects of the novel that just were kind of weird in and of themselves, but...
In fact, if the novel... I'm going so far as to say that if the novel hadn't been written in connection with Kubrick's film, the novel would have ended up being just average, unremarkable, if I can use the word unremarkable with Arthur C. Clarke, just an average Clarke novel. People would remember him more for Childhood's End and Sands of Mars and stuff like that.
Yeah. But, yep, so Bowman, standard issue white guy, basically lives out his life in the hotel room of purgatory, where he then dies of old age in front of the monolith, which then rebirths him a birthday into a star child, which then returns to Earth. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. Thus spake Zarathustra. And credits roll. That's it. 2.5 hours of Stanley Kubrick just being Stanley Kubrick.
Let's see, 142 minutes. That was the running time. Oh, you may not have known this, but Kubrick's original idea was to begin the movie with about 12 to 15 minutes of excerpts from interviews that he had done with various leaders in the fields of science, politics, sociology, and religion, on aspects of what the film was going to be dealing with, the future of man and such like that. And it was decided at the last moment to do without that.
Well, yeah, that was boring as fuck. I think that wasn't a thought. That was more of a threat.
But once again, if anyone wants those dialogues are available for anyone who wants to once again pick up Jerome Eggel's interesting book, The Making of Kubrick's 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and of course, the critics loved it. The critics hated it. Actually, there were some science fiction writers who didn't care much for the movie, and for pretty much the same thing you mentioned earlier, the uninspiring dialogue and the overall pace of human. They didn't know bare-chested heroes running around firing blasters and stuff like that.
That would have been funny, to be quite honest. I want to see Kubrick's action adventure movie.
Spartacus.
I mean, action adventure movie, not the Depression.
I thought Spartacus had action in it.
Yeah, but I mean, like a typical a typical action adventure movie does not end with the entirety of the heroes being crucified on crosses down a Roman road. Okay.
Well, I mean, you could have just left the theater before that happened, and
still seen a 2-hour Kubrick film. So what grade do you give the movie then?
A+.
A+. Okay, yeah, A+.
Which is a rarity for the two of us. For anyone who hasn't been listening to our podcast for a length of time,
and I feel weird about it because it's not it's an interesting movie, but it wasn't really gripping.
It was Kubrick's. It was the vision that Kubrick wanted to present to the audience.
Yes,
and I give him props for that.
Yes,
and I do consider it, his masterwork.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I still like The Shining, and also I really also like the documentary on The Shining. Room 217, I think. Oh God!
I still have yet to see that. I want to see that.
Oh, that is so fucking delicious. Oh my God, these people are insane. They are insane. Oh, we should do that as an assignment. But anyway.
Ooh, okay.
So next week will be our season 3 retrospective of Star Trek original series season 3, where we give our thoughts, critiques, our depression, our tears about season 3 of Star Trek, the original series, and then we will dive headfirst into Star Trek the animated series. And I hope y'all join us for that.
Yes, and I hope y'all had a wonderful time with this, and y'all take care and behave.
Take care. Bye-bye.